Allen Lund Company wishes all the owner-operators out there a Happy New Year.
OOIDA, representing America's truckers since 1973, presents Landline Now with your host, Mark Reddick.
The Truck Leasing Task Force's final report calls for an all-out ban on lease purchase agreements. Mark Schrimmer of Landline Magazine joins the show to discuss the recommendations and what comes next. Broker transparency, the driver shortage debate, and the new administration. We speak with OOIDA's Director of Communications about these stories and what the year ahead might look like for headlines. Every year, CVSA organizes several safety blitzes in which thousands of truckers get a thorough once-over as part of the inspection process. So what do you need to do in order to be ready? I'll talk with David Grimes of CDL Legal. And finally, for some time, truckers traveling in parts of the American South have faced someone slashing tires. Among the latest victims was Marlowe Shoulders of Rockford, Illinois. We'll hear from him about his experience. And now, here's Scott Thompson.
Thanks, Mark. We've got new developments from the Truck Leasing Task Force, a group that was formed to look into the problem of predatory lease purchase agreements in the trucking industry. The group has put out its final report, and joining us to talk about what it included and what comes next is Mark Schrimmer, Senior Editor of Landline Magazine. Mark, always good to see you.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Scott.
Welcome. And we've been covering this group, this story, since it formed all the way back in the summer of 2023. It's been a while.
Yeah.
I think it's safe to say that this was a successful endeavor in many respects. And the final report that came out here comes to a very firm conclusion about lease purchase agreements. They are not fans, I think we can safely say.
Yes, anytime you use the phrase irredeemable tools of fraud and oppression.
That makes a statement.
Yeah, that certainly does. And, some of this, isn't news in a way from the fact that we had already reported on the draft report that basically the Truck Leasing Task Force, like we said, about a year and a half, had all of these meetings looking into the whole issue of predatory lease purchase agreements and seeing what could be done about them. And after looking at all of the data, their first recommendation is we need to end this model.
Yep.
Need a complete ban on it. And the reason for that is when you look at some of the numbers and some of their findings, and one of the things that really jumps out at me, they show that if you're a driver on one of these lease purchase, that supposedly an owner-operator of what they're trying to sell it as, those drivers, through their findings, were making 22 cents per mile, as opposed to a regular company driver making 70 cents per mile. And this is while they have all of the burden of the cost of the maintenance on the vehicle, and also you consider the fact that most of these drivers don't end up ever owning the truck. So they're driving the truck just for a considerably lower rate, and they don't end up owning the truck anyway, so there's no benefit to them. They haven't built any equity into that vehicle. They basically were just paid a fraction of what they should have been paid for that 2-3 years, whatever amount of time they were on the lease. And then we've actually even seen reports where drivers at the end of a pay period actually owed money back to the company.
Right.
I can't imagine, that being the case of working hard for a 2-week period and then just get your check and go, oh, I can't wait for the weekend, and then say, oh, I owe $112.
Yeah, and I was going to say it was a slap in the face, but it's worse than that in so many respects. And, this was really underscored by the people who testified or talked to the committee, to the group, about the experiences that they went through and told the horror stories. And there are so many out there, which I think really helped to convince some of the people who are maybe a bit on the fence about this to come up with this final recommendation here. And again, the final recommendation does not mince words. They say that this lease purchase agreement model should end, essentially. I think knowing that Congress may not clasp onto that necessarily, they did have other recommendations as well. We can get into that a little bit in terms of what they think might help, I guess, if it doesn't end.
Yeah, and this is one thing that I think was really smart by the committee. If they had just put all their eggs in one basket and said, hey, ban this, and then just left it there, if Congress goes, well, we're not going to ban it, then you'd be done. But so basically what they've said, and like I said, very intelligently, I believe, said, okay, we think that this is an irredeemable model, but if you really believe that this is something that should continue, here are our recommendations. And those things, we don't have time to go too in depth on them, but, some congressional oversight from FMCSA, mandatory disclosures, things that, a driver before they enter one of these agreements know what would my take-home pay regularly be, what's the average, what are the costs, all of these sorts of things, information that 90% of these don't end up, you end up owning the truck knowing that you would be basically a lottery winner if you completed it, letting them know all of those sorts of things. Also, enforcement from the Department of Labor, the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, things to make it easier. Because right now, the only avenue that anyone has is lawsuits. And if these drivers, were losing this type of money and are up, they're probably not going to, a lot of times, have the ability, have the means to hire an attorney and go after these companies or these sorts of things. So trying to get more for, state and local authorities to be able to do something about it. And, right now, everything is kind of, in the ball is in the court of Congress, FMCSA, Department of Labor, and all those groups.
That's the thing that I wonder here because, again, this is clear cut, right? I mean, the Truck Leasing Task Force came up with a very conclusive determination here about these predatory lease purchase agreements. Now it's up to Congress. It's up to these agencies to do something. That's kind of my fear is, do they do something with it? What happens next, I guess?
Yeah, and it's interesting, too, because, I think a good thing is they got this completed before a new administration came into place. The report's there. It's out. How is Congress going to look at this? It's unclear. And then you do have a new administration coming through. This isn't, necessarily a partisan thing by any means. Right. But, will people look at this differently with the new administration? It's hard to tell. I know, obviously, the approach of the Trump administration in a lot of ways is going to be less regulation as opposed to more. Mm-hmm. So, but so much of this information, and as you alluded to before, if you really dig into the information, a lot of people that were one side came out on the other at the end of this task force. So you hope the same thing. They look at it that this information is compelling enough that action is needed. Yeah, reach out to your lawmaker if you haven't already and let them know about this report because they may not know. They've got a lot of stuff going on, obviously, but inform them and let them know why it's important that they take this up. And hopefully we'll see some action on this. Mark, a pleasure as always. We thank you for your time. Thank you.
And if you'd like a bigger rundown of the Truck Leasing Task Force's final report, go check out Mark's story on our website, landline.media. Before we go, one more item of note here. The U.S. Senate is scheduled to hold a floor vote Tuesday on Sean Duffy's bid to serve as the next Secretary of Transportation. Confirmation appears to be a near certainty at this point. The Senate Commerce Committee last week approved Duffy's nomination by a count of 28-0. Mark, back to you.
Thanks, Scott. Next, Ashley Blackford discusses the latest headlines with OOIDA's George O'Connor, and I'll find out what to do to get through a safety blitz with David Grimes of CDL Legal. We'll be back in just a moment. I'm Mark Reddick, and this is Landline Now.
Are you tired of the IRS following you around like a dark cloud? Call 888-557-4020 and get your life back.
At TruckStop, we built a better load board for carriers like you. Sign up today and access over 600,000 loads on the most trusted online load board. Learn why the best in the business rely on TruckStop to make more money and start driving your profit today.
It's tested and proven. Burn 2.1% less fuel when you balance all wheel ends with Centromatic. Call 800-523-8473 to get the OOIDA discount.
Landline Now, welcome back. George O'Connor joins me now. He is Director of Communications for OOIDA. George, how's it going?
I'm trying to stay warm out here in D.C. Hopefully you're doing the same out there in Missouri.
Definitely. Let's start off by taking a look at some of the trucking headlines. The first, of course, was on broker transparency. That's been a hot topic lately. Tell me more about that.
Sure. So the comment period opened up in November for FMCSA's broker transparency rulemaking. Now, this is something that OOIDA had petitioned the agency to do because, frankly, they were not enforcing a regulation that's been on the books since the early 80s. So it seems kind of crazy sometimes when we talk about these advocacy efforts that we have, whether it's telling FMCSA to enforce a regulation that's already on the books, or getting over into the legislative side of things of having to do a bill to allow truckers to use the restroom. Sometimes these things are a little they don't make a whole lot of sense. But however, we were able to get FMCSA through our pressure campaign to go through a rulemaking process. And part of that is the public comment period, which closed on the 21st of January. So throughout these couple months, it's been an OOIDA cross-organization effort to really raise the awareness with our members and also non-members, just truckers who we've been hearing from for years and years and years that have been taken advantage of by brokers because, frankly, when it comes to some of these negotiations, the carrier, the trucker, is operating with or negotiating with one hand behind their back. So really, this is in principle just something of fairness, but to the effort itself and how the media and press component comes in here is, reporters in the industry, trade reporters have been aware of this for a while, and they're hearing from their readers. They're hearing from carriers that read their outlets, and they're hearing the same thing. There's been some great reporting on this as we do get the word out of trying to encourage folks to go to our advocacy website, fightingfortruckers.com, where we make it really easy to get that comment filed with the FMCSA so that you do get on record as to what your opinion is, why this is important to truckers. So we're able to work with media outlets in the trade space to really amplify the campaign itself and also to amplify our comments, which we submitted just before the deadline to get the word out of why this is important. And again, this has been kind of an OOIDA-wide effort. Our marketing department's been really busy working on this. You probably have seen some stuff on social media. You probably received a few emails from OOIDA encouraging you to go to fightingfortruckers.com to submit some comments and a compliance. Folks that are on the phones have been encouraging folks to get involved, as well as some great reporting from Landline.
Well, thank you very much. I'm always curious. Of course, like you said, in the trade space, broker, this got a ton of coverage. These types of stories, do you find mainstream media picks them up, or is it kind of too in the weeds for them to be able to cover it well?
So a couple things go into trying to get inside the mind of a mainstream reporter. What else is going on? What's the news environment? As well as, is there kind of a traditional story arc that would resonate with someone that's not familiar with the nitty-gritty regulatory process of FMCSA. So taking the first one first of what the first piece of that of what else is going on in the news. Well, November, December, January, a lot of political coverage on what's going on in the post-election. So you're trying to kind of fight in that battle too of trying to punch through of, this political space of, why would this be more important to report on to a broad audience than, nominees to the new administration. So, sometimes breaking through on these nitty gritty regulatory things can be difficult. But it's not that we don't try. So you kind of have to frame it in some way of fairness. That's something that really a principle that can resonate initially with a reporter that they can then dive into the nitty gritty details. Because if you pitch them and you say, hey, here's a comment period that you should really think about reporting on, they're going to say, what are you talking about? But if you frame it as like, hey, here's an issue in an industry that's been underreported. It's one of fairness. There are small businesses that are really being taken advantage of in a really tough freight market. Then you get some eyeballs that open up, and there was some interest from mainstream, but again, it's that balance of, well, this is a great story, but I've got to report on the most recent cabinet nominee that their broader audience might be interested in.
Yeah, for sure. Another topic, the driver shortage debate. Never heard of it. I'm kidding. What kind of stories? I mean, I that's one of those things that I know we've covered for years and years. What has been kind of the coverage on that?
Well, I tell you what, this is, as you mentioned, this is a multi-year effort to push back on the mainstream narrative that there is a perennial driver shortage. There's a long-standing driver shortage, which, as actually the National Academy of Sciences, I think late summer, early fall, kind of put the pin in that and said, well, actually, according to our economists and just basic economics, this couldn't be further from the truth. So that really, really put some wind in our sails and pushing back against this narrative. And ultimately, we sent that to anyone who's ever whispered driver shortage. We sent that study to anyone who's ever whispered the phrase driver shortage in years past, and that ended up getting quite a bit of press. And ultimately, within the industry, it culminated in November at FreightWave's F3 conference. So because this became such a news story, and because of our advocacy efforts in DC and some fantastic reporting from Landline, is FreightWave said, all right, let's set up a debate about whether there is a driver shortage or not, a systematic driver shortage. So they invited OIDA, representative from OIDA, Executive Vice President Louis Pugh, who I'm sure your listeners are very familiar with, as well as the purveyor of that narrative, the American Trucking Association, which seems to be the only organization that is mentioning driver shortage or pushing that narrative over the years. So they were invited. Ultimately, they didn't show up to defend themselves at this debate at the conference. So John Larkin, he's an analyst at Clarendon Capital in the logistics industry. He decided he kind of got roped into debating Louis, and he was a real good sport about it. To be quite frank, his opening statement was, "Yeah, there's not really a driver shortage. There might be a shortage on really experienced drivers, which I mean we would agree with, in that there's a reason that, and which goes to a whole other issue of you treat drivers well and they'll stick around and they'll gain that experience, which leads to better lifestyles for them as well as safer roads." So long story short, we've been pushing back against this false narrative of a systematic truck driver shortage for years and years and years. And we really got a shot in the arm when the economists over at the National Academy of Sciences said, you know what, you're right. And it's good to have that third party confirm what we've been saying for years. And the opponent in this case wouldn't even stand up for their argument.
Changing topics, today, this is airing Monday, January 27th. Of course, it's been a week since President Trump has been sworn in. Lots going on in politics, and I know a lot with the announcements of elected officials. OOIDA does a lot of statements, right?
Oh, that's right. So, sometimes, so there's usually a strategy. There's always a strategy behind our public statements, behind our press releases, our engagements with the press. So sometimes it can seem pretty inconsequential to put out a statement and say, "Hey, congratulations on either getting reelected or elected, or congratulations on being nominated," or it seems kind of predictable. But the reasons that we do that are, one, because in our government affairs office, we kind of play the inside and outside game. We are engaging with staff. We're engaging with the either members of Congress or cabinet members or agency heads quietly to get our message across, because it's not always great to be negotiating through the press, but that inside game is complemented by our outside game, which is giving them some political cover, saying, "Hey, truck drivers, support your position on X, Y, and Z." Not necessarily because we're a nonpartisan organization, so we're not getting into the actual politics of things. But we are saying, "Hey, congratulations on your reelection. We look forward to working with you on truck parking, fighting the speed limiter mandate, working to make broker transparency a thing." So there's a reason that we're doing these things. And if you're an elected member of Congress or you're a potential regulator, it's good to have industry cover that provides that political cover to show that they have support from the folks that they are either creating laws on behalf of or are regulating.
Now, I know you can't predict the future, but what stories do you expect to get a lot of coverage over the course of this next year?
One would be that truck parking is included in what is called the highway bill. It's surface every 5 years, a surface transportation bill that reauthorizes a number of DOT programs, and truck parking would be potentially included in there. So, we'll hopefully have the introduction of the quote-unquote standalone bill in Congress that has been bipartisan and bicameral, meaning Senate and House, in past years. So we look forward to getting some momentum behind that, because we know that that's one of the top issues for our members in the entire trucking industry. Would love to see some stories that indicate the withdrawal of the speed limiter mandate that began in years past, and we've been pretty vocal, I'd say, about our opposition to that. And another, hopefully, would be this broker transparency regulation going into effect as the rulemaking process moves forward.
Wonderful. George, thank you so much.
Hey, sure thing.
That was George O'Connor with OOIDA. For Landline Now, I'm Ashley Blackford. Stay tuned for more after this.
Penske owns and operates some of the best-maintained vehicles on the planet. Our used trucks come with a 5-year maintenance report and pre-sale inspection. So if you're in the market for a top-quality pre-owned truck, look no further. Search our inventory today at PenskeUsedTrucks.com.
Capital Reman, the leader in remanufactured diesel engines and components, has partnered with OOIDA to offer exclusive member benefits. Visit CapitalReman.com today to support America's transportation industry and take advantage of your benefits.
Landline Now. Welcome back. Several times a year, the Commercial Vehicle Safety Alliance organizes enforcement officials across the country to take part in a safety blitz. And during those events, thousands of truckers and their rigs get a thorough once-over as part of the inspection process. So truckers should be prepared. But what do you need to do in order to be ready? To get an answer and to discuss the situation, I talk with David Grimes of CDL Legal. Let's start with some of the most prominent safety blitzes. There's three big ones that CVSA, the Commercial Vehicle Safety Alliance, puts on every year. Can you kind of walk us through what those three are?
Yes. So every year, the CVSA puts on a international road check, a safe driver week, and some like brake safety campaign. The specific names of them sometimes change. It just really depends on what the schedule is for the year. But oftentimes the road check is scheduled for the kind of end of spring, usually in May. This year, it's May 13th through 15th. Operation Safe Driver Week is in the middle of the summer, typically. And the brake safety campaign is usually towards the end of summer, beginning of fall. That Operation Safe Driver Week this year is July 13th through 19th. And the brake safety campaign this year, 2025, is August 24 through 30.
Now, we have a lot of single-state or multi-state safety blitzes as well, as I recall, and those can pop up just about anywhere at any time, right?
That's correct. Oftentimes, the DOT within a state organizes themselves for a specific blitz. If they are seeing patterns, and this is really blitzes in general, but if they're seeing patterns of violations, their concern grows over specific things that are happening on the roads in their area, they'll run a safety blitz in order to try and cut down on those things that they see as hazardous.
Now, some of these, like you mentioned Brake Safety Week, those involve a focus on just one thing. But at any point during any of these, a trucker is probably looking at a level 1 inspection. And I thought it'd be useful for folks listening if we can define what we mean by level 1. What does that term refer to?
Yeah, absolutely. So there are 3 levels of a DOT safety inspection. And they kind of range in complexity and depth, from just kind of looking around at maybe the truck, taking just a quick look at it for the like the lights are working, that sort of thing, to all the way down to like going through the driver's logs and basically picking over everything with a fine-tooth comb. So a level 3 is basically just a quick look at the driver's credentials. Very simple. The level 2 is the walk around that I was talking about. And it can be pretty systematic, having the driver turn on and off lights, checking brake lines, that sort of thing. And then that level 1 that you mentioned is the most thorough. Everything that can be inspected about the driver and the vehicle is gone over by the DOT inspector.
So looking at the level 1 again, I know there's a lot of stuff that you have to have ready or you should have prepared in order to successfully go through that. There's obviously equipment considerations, but paperwork is a big part of these, and there's quite a bit of it. What sort of paperwork should you have in place or ready to go to an inspection officer when one of these safety blitzes is going on?
Definitely. So a lot of drivers, they're professionals. They've been doing this a long time, and they are generally pretty aware. They've done training on what paperwork they need to have in the truck. Things like your bill of lading if you're under load, things like your med card, your insurance, your license, obviously, and your logs. Some places where drivers tend to get tripped up that we've seen, just little details that can really come back to bite you if you're not paying attention, are certifying your logs every day. Make sure that after that 24-hour period is passed, that you've got that signature on your logs, making sure that the DOT officer sees that you are paying attention to your logs and you're rectifying them as you go along. And then also something that trips drivers up that you really should check before you know a safety blitz is coming is your med card. There's a kind of a scary amount of steps between getting your medical certification re-upped and it appearing properly on your driver's license record. Sometimes that process can get messed up by the administrators who are communicating with one another behind the scenes, and you often don't know until you get pulled in and you get put out of service because the officer's like, well, your med card's not current. Sorry, you can't drive this truck. So before a safety blitz, it would probably be well worth it to go and just give your DMV a call and say, hey, just want to make sure that you have my current medical cert, that my med card is up to date, everything is good to go. It's a small thing, but it is one of those hidden things that drivers often get trapped by unexpectedly.
Now, let's turn now to the equipment, because that's the other half of the equation. And what sort of equipment considerations are there or things that you should be looking at before you get pulled in on one of these inspection blitzes?
Mm-hmm. So if the inspection blitz has a specific focus that you know of, like brakes, for instance, you'll want to check your brakes as thoroughly as you can. However, if it is more generalized, then you'll want to do probably the same level that a careful driver would be doing of just a walk around, pre-trip inspection, a mid-trip inspection of their lights, their brakes, their connectors, all those sorts of things. And it's nearly impossible because the sheer number of different things that can go wrong on a truck, it's nearly impossible to make sure that everything is perfect all the time. Tires was the other main one that I was thinking of. Check your tires. But one thing that you can do is just be a little bit more intentional when you are doing these inspections before or during a safety blitz that you know is coming up. And a lot of this is really just about awareness. Hey, I know I'm going to be driving during this time. I know that I will likely be pulled over during this time. Let me, if I wouldn't normally crawl up under the truck, let me just get up under the truck real quick. If I wouldn't normally do a full walk around in my mid-trip inspection, just the pre-trip, well, maybe when I do my 30-minute stop, I will spend part of that time checking my lights again. Just real quick.
Let's go to the moment that you're pulled over here, because especially when you get to road check, there will be thousands of trucks that get pulled either into a weigh station, stopped in a rest area. It might even just be at roadside. Once you're pulled over or once an inspection is imminent, it's about to take place, walk us through what a trucker should do to deal with that situation once you're in it. What are the first steps?
Mm-hmm. So you'll definitely want to be listening for what the DOT officer is directing you to do. One thing to keep in mind is the other side of this coin. These DOT officers are running at a really high capacity, and they are trying to get a lot of things done very quickly. If it's a little ways into the blitz, they're probably pretty tired, and they've seen a lot of other trucks and talked to a lot of other drivers. One thing that is extremely unfortunate that we've seen crop up during blitzes is if a driver's not paying a special attention to an officer, he can accidentally drive off if he thinks he's done, or if he thinks the officer isn't paying attention to me, he's talking to this other guy, I think I'm good to go, and he'll move the truck to a different area of the weigh station or whatever, and the officer will go and probably with a little bit of crankiness give him a violation for moving it appropriately or not listening to a DOT officer's instructions. You can get violations for those sorts of things. Okay, so the main thing is be paying attention to the officers and what they want you to do. Obviously, pull out your paperwork. Make sure that everything is good for an inspection. One thing also that drivers often get caught in is you pull up to a stop and you're waiting on the inspection. Maybe you're in a line of trucks. The guy in the front's getting inspected. You're number 5. You pull out your phone. Do not do that. You take off your glasses to give your eyes a break. Do not do that. Officers may walk up to your truck at any time, and if they look at your license and they see corrective lenses required, you're sitting in the driver's seat with the truck on, and your licenses or your glasses are on the dashboard. That's a big problem. The main thing that people need to know about DOT inspections is that they only cover a snapshot in time. It doesn't matter what happened 5 minutes ago or 5 minutes from now. If the DOT officer sees a violation right now, that violation is valid. If your glasses are on the dash, if your phone is in your hand right now, it doesn't matter how safe you were before, you're in violation. So please be careful.
Once you've got, let's say, through the inspection, let's say you get an out-of-service order or some kind of citation, what are your options if you don't think you deserved that out-of-service order citation and you want to keep it off your record? What can you do?
Okay. So the very first thing to do is collect as much evidence as you can at the scene. And this also involves playing it a little bit safe with the officer. You don't want to be antagonistic, but you can say something like, "Officer, I see these violations here. Would you mind if I took some photos for my safety manager so they can see these violations that you're talking about? Can I take some photos with my phone, hop out of the truck, take those photos if the officer says it's okay, and just try to collect as much data as you can. If you think a violation is not valid, that proof that you might collect there will be essential in fighting that violation later, because the officer is collecting his own observations, maybe his own evidence. And when you go to challenge that violation, you have got to prove over the top of what he said to his superior officer, usually. So any evidence you can collect on the scene, please do so. The other thing would be if you're put out of service or the truck is put out of service, getting some kind of, or I should say, if the truck is put out of service for some sort of mechanical thing, getting a mechanic's receipt. So you got to call in the mechanic or you got to take the truck somewhere. That mechanic's receipt may prove invaluable. If that mechanic writes in a note that says, "Hey, I checked this after the inspection. Whatever the violation the officer says was there, wasn't there. It was 20 minutes after the inspection and everything looked good to me." That's something that you can bring into a challenge to the violation and say, "Hey, the officer must have been wrong because the mechanic who reviewed this said it was okay." So things like that you can use.
Okay. Well, David, that's all I have on that topic. Thank you very much for the information.
You're welcome.
I've been talking with David Grimes of CDL Legal, a legal services provider for the trucking industry, about what you need to do to prepare and survive a safety blitz. You can learn more by calling CDL Legal at 913-738-4836 or by going to their website, cdllegal.com. Again, that phone number is 913-738-4836 or go to their website, cdllegal.com. And you can find all of that information on our website, landlinenow.com. Just click on the photo or headline at the top of the page, and that's where you'll find all the website links, email addresses, and phone numbers we mention here on the show. We'll be back in just a moment with more news and information. Please stay with us. I'm Mark Reddick, and this is Landline Now.
Running on ultra-low sulfur diesel? Stay protected this winter with Howe's Diesel Treat and Diesel Lifeline. Steer clear of gel and ice with North America's #1 trusted brand. Find Howe's products nationwide at select retailers, auto parts stores, truck stops, and on Amazon.com.
Since you started, what you've loved about trucking is the freedom. Heading out on your favorite route, a good driving song, and thinking about truck insurance. Well, maybe not that last one. That's why we're here. At OOIDA, we have a full range of truck insurance products, expert advice, and great customer service, helping you get the right coverage for your operation. Go to OOIDA.com because your job is to drive. Our job is to help with everything else.
Landline Now, welcome back. An OOIDA member is one of the latest victims in a slew of tire slashing cases happening in parts of the southern states. When Landline spoke with Marlos Shoulders, it had been 11 days since all 18 of his tires were punctured at the Flying J Travel Center in Lake Park, Georgia.
I came out of Georgia and I went to Florida, delivered a load. Then I came back to Georgia because you can get a better paying load out of Georgia to go to Florida. So when I got here, I came, ate, took a shower, and I went to bed. And I woke up the next morning, went to go brush my teeth. I seen a guy, he was standing across the parking lot in the Flying J's parking lot, and his tires was flat. And I asked him what happened to him, and he said somebody stabbed his tires. So I'm like, I apologize to you, man. I know that stuff happened. I'm going to brush my teeth and get my face and everything together. So I went in there, and as I'm brushing my teeth, I'm thinking to myself, like, man, I better go look at my truck while I'm sitting here apologizing to this guy. So I come back outside, and I see a bunch of cops coming in the parking lot. And everybody pulled in, and I walked to my truck, and I seen all my tires was on flat. So the cop came through, gave a report, gave us a card, and it had a case number on the back. And we, filed for our police reports, reported all this to the insurance, but this gas station doesn't have cameras.
Shoulders is an owner-operator based in Rockford, Illinois. He said he wasn't the only one who fell victim to these alleged vandals.
That day, they didn't just stab my tires. They stabbed pretty much everybody's tires that was in the parking lot. From what the officer said, it was 123 people's tires that got stabbed that day. And they just stabbed in Florida, I think yesterday, it was 94 people tires slashed. They slashed tires all on the ramp. They slashed tires, in all three parking lots. It was the TA, the Flying J's, and the Loves.
Shoulders was one of many who filed reports with the Lowndes County Sheriff's Department.
No, this was the first time that I personally heard about it, but from when I'm speaking to the tire techs and speaking to the officers and guys that's around in this area, they were saying that this has been happening for the last 3 years. They even have a picture of this guy. They have a picture of the guy. He's standing there. He has gloves on his hands. He has the ice pick in his hands. He's bent down in one of the pictures stabbing the tires. But my thing is, if you guys can find everybody else, how are you guys not able to track down these guys?
Shoulders said he didn't feel comfortable leaving his truck and trailer unattended, with no assurance of when the case may be resolved.
Yeah, I am an owner-operator. I own several trucks, but I don't want to leave my truck here because then they'll say, it's abandoned, and, I might come back. They might take, my truck. Last night, guy knocked on my 2 nights in a row. 2 guys came and they, knocked on my door, and it looked like they wanted to break in my truck if I didn't answer, So that happened. Then last night, another guy came. He had something in his hand. I don't know what it was, but I kind of peeped through my curtains and seen him, and he had a hoodie on and stuff. So it's very scary to be a sitting duck, I don't know what's going to happen. I don't know what the future holds. I'm waiting on my insurance, but they're moving really slow. Clearly 11 days. That's pretty crazy.
The damages to Shoulders' truck and trailer tires were estimated to be around $12,000.
I have to just wait it out. They sent out an investigator. He took pictures and everything so far, but that was a week ago, So it's tough on the truckers, man. It's bad enough that we already ain't making any money, but to have this going on, and then what makes it even worse for me is that I'm a single father and my son is all the way at home, and I'm paying my babysitters to, just keep an eye on him and make sure he goes to school. So he wondering, hey, where's my dad? It's been a long time. I ain't seen my dad. He don't know it's been 11 days, but I know it's been 11 days,
MJ4 Trucking LLC is Shoulders' company. It's a 2-truck operation, but Shoulders said it's the last time he would come to that area.
When you got 11 days of sitting down, you didn't thought about it all. I'm definitely not coming back over in these areas at all. This was a terrible experience for me. I've been in business. I've been driving for 10 years, but I've been owning my business for almost 5. and I never had this issue at all. So they said this been going on all the way from Tennessee all the way up towards Florida. So I'm like, man, I come through here in these areas and I never had this issue before. And for me just to, luck of the draw, I guess, I pulled in here and I called myself getting a good night's sleep and going back up to Florida, and no, I won't be coming back.
He added that nothing gave him pause about parking his rig at this truck stop.
I've seen all the truck drivers that were parked. I seen guys that was backed in here just like me. Just another day in the office to me. It has weigh scales, it has Denny's, it has Subway, it has, a regular truck stop. So I wouldn't think that they didn't have cameras. I wouldn't, paying attention until the morning, until I, did a walk around here. At nighttime, I'm not going to just get out my truck and just start walking, That's the most scariest thing you can do. But no, we go to these truck stops every day. These are supposed to be our safe places. This is where we wash our clothes. This is where, we even have our kids, you know what I'm saying? Thank God I don't have my child this time. But, we get fuel here. We play slots. We do everything at these truck stops. These are our home away from homes. And for us to no justice, no nothing in these places, and they're not even really trying, man. He gave me that card, put a number on the back. They never come in, they never check. The whole time I've been here, I've never seen another officer come through here, check on us. They don't have no security to come through and ride through the parking lots. The truck drivers are just, it seems like we're victims. And the reason why I say that is the tire shops, they right around here for one. We the ones that's losing. Everybody's winning. Insurance, think about it. The truck driver that files for an insurance claim, our insurance quote's going to go up now. So that goes up, These guys made a lot of money, like he told me. He said this has been going on for 3 years, but if it's been going on for 3 years, why come ain't nobody doing nothing about it? Because it seemed like all y'all in cohorse with this, So it's just a sad place to be in, man. It was guys that was out here crying. It was people that had their kids, their animals, and it was just sad to look at it. But for me to get all my tires, stabbed like that, I just bought those tires.
Shoulders said none of the truckers who were victims of this tire slashing deserved this.
There's nothing we can do. I just gotta wait it out, bro. It's pretty sad, man, but there's nothing we can do about this, man. The sad part about it is, we are in these trucks, so you have to run the trucks to stay warm. So then you got to get stuff like this, and you got to walk across the parking lot 6-7 times just to get some gas and pour it in your tanks just to stay warm at night. So something I never experienced before. And for us, me being the owner of a trucking company, I normally don't be the one that's in the truck, but I am kind of happy that I am the one in the truck because I wouldn't want this to happen to my drivers. I hate to say it like that, but we don't deserve this type of treatment, man. We really don't.
As of Thursday, January 23rd, it had been 17 days since Shoulders filed a report regarding the damages to his truck tires in Georgia, and he was still waiting for his insurance company to cover the cost of the necessary repairs and to return home to Illinois. According to the Owner-Operator Independent Drivers Association, it's received calls from several other association members about similar incidents of truck tire vandalism. Meanwhile, over the past couple of years, lots of media have reported tire slashing at truck stops across Georgia, Florida, and Tennessee. For Landline Now, I'm Ashley Blackford. That's our show for today. Thank you so much for tuning in. Be sure to join us again tomorrow at the same time.
Thanks for listening. Be sure to like and subscribe. If you want more content, go to landline.media to get updated news, information, and archived editions of our show. Once again, that's landline.media.
I'm a dad,
a son,
a husband,
wife.
I'm a writer,
photographer.
I farm.
I'm a veteran.
I love old cars, fishing,
My kids.
Chrome.
And I am
a professional truck driver.
And together, we are OOIDA.
OOIDA was founded by truckers to stand up and speak on behalf of truckers. We've done that by combining the individual voices of our members into a single, powerful voice. Protecting your interests, defending your rights.
Join us.
Make your voice heard. Join OOIDA, the Owner-Operator Independent Drivers Association. Call 1-800-444-5791 or visit OOIDA.com.